Hello YouTube, this is Mahadeva the Thunder Wizard. So yesterday we, let me try this. Yesterday I'm not all put together today. So yesterday we did a pretty intense meditation. Really, if we're being honest, it was a shamanic journey. Sorry, I'm trying to do two things at once, and being the typical guy, I can't do two things at the same time. Okay, so that's just not going to work. So we won't worry about it. All right, so yesterday we did a shamanic journey, CE5, to bring the solar flash event. And so I'm very interested to know, it hasn't been 24 hours since we actually did that meditation. It's been 24 hours since we started the live stream yesterday. And my goal was to do everything in my power to intend this great awakening through this solar flash event. And again, a little bit of very short recap is I didn't know anything about this. I had a lucid dream not too long ago after having spent 3 months working with extra dimensional beings. You can call them extraterrestrials if you want. After interacting with them, I had this very intense dream, which other people, by the way, have had. So I've talked to other people who have had the same dream, not in the exact location. You know, it's tailored to fit your personal and spiritual history, but it all comes out to be the same, which is that you're there and all of a sudden there's something that happens in the sky and everybody thinks it's the end of the world or the second coming of Jesus or whatever your religion is. And then very quickly thereafter, they realize, oh, it's not that, it's something else. So I had this dream and it felt like it was going to happen any day. And so in meditation, I asked my friends, I said, first I said, what is this event going to be? What are you going to do? I mean, is it going to be like fleets of spaceships? I mean, you know, what is it? And they said, no, it's going to be a solar wave that will pulse from the sun and go and hit Earth. And when it does, there will be these waves of love that will shift everything up to the next level. And I thought to myself, that just sounds too, I didn't, sounded like I thought I was making it up. So I put it in that folder in my head where I think I might be making this part up until I talked about it on a live stream and somebody said, no, that's a real thing. It's called the solar flash event. And looked it up and did some research and found out, wow, that sounds exactly like what I saw and what I was told. And so again, this got me really working hard to try and uncover what this was. Is this something real? Is this just something that's sorry, give me a second here. It's bugging me. That empty space right there is bugging me. Here, let's use this. You know, what the heck is going on with this thing? I'm saying to my extra dimensional friends, what the heck is going on here? and trying to figure this out. So is this a literal thing or not? Is this an individual thing? Is this something that some people go through and other people don't? Because depending on who you talk to, there's some differences to it. Some people will say it's this horrific life-ending event that will destroy civilization. It'll knock out all of the technology in the grid. Other people say no, it's just going to be something that brings a lot of love and joy and happiness, and other people have it somewhere in the middle. Some people believe that some people will be taken and they won't be part of this three-dimensional reality anymore. It's all over the map. And so I decided I don't like waiting around. So I decided that I was going to do a live stream event where we together were going to do a shamanic journey to the Galactic Center, to the sun, to the moon, and of course to our planet Earth. I shared with you some exercises, and that wiped me out. Whatever it was that we did yesterday, as you can tell, I mean, I'm all over the place, I can barely function. It just completely, totally knocked me out. I feel like, I feel like still 3/4 of me is not in my physical body. I still feel like I'm out somewhere doing something. I go back and forth between, what the hell was I thinking? Who do I think I am that I can, force the universe into doing anything? But, as my interactions with these guys led me to believe, they said, you're the one that decides when this happens. I said, oh, okay, so let's do this thing. I don't want to wait around. Let's go ahead and make it happen. So it still could, but my experience with these kinds of interactions, my experience is that you have to give it some time. And that was kind of my goal. My goal was yesterday to go into a shamanic journey, meditative state, and just put everything I could into intending it. And that's what I did. So I'm really interested to know what other people's experience were. Did you see anything? Did you hear anything? Did you meet any extra dimensional beings along your journey? Did you feel something? Did you feel some strange things in your body? For me, what happens is I know I've connected to higher dimensions because I feel really weird energies in my body. Energies that are they're not chi, they're not shin energy, they're not anything that normally I would associate with, higher vibrational, even shamanic out-of-body experiences. It's something altogether different, and it's just incredibly strange and different. And I'm going to be honest with you, I tend to overdo things, and I've been going after this as hard as I can, and I've been sometimes a couple of times a day I will go into a meditative state and reach out and talk to these guys. And it's had such a profound and strange, if I told you some of the stuff that they said, some of the things that I've experienced, I mean, I don't believe it. You wouldn't believe it if I told you. But I've had to really stay flexible in order not to lose my marbles, because it's a different dimension altogether, and there's a whole different, things just are very different over there, and the energy is very different, and the 3D mind does not function over there. If you try and take dualistic 3D thinking into higher dimensions, I mean, your brain will just explode. You have to be very flexible, and you have to simultaneously take everything literally and nothing at all literally. You have to be in this very relaxed state in order to be able to tolerate the things that you see and feel and hear. And I think that's the lesson, because what we're dealing with here is waking up from the dream, waking up from this illusion. 3D life is an illusion. And if you don't, if you have doubts about that, please be my guest. Thoroughly research all of the things associated with the Mandela Effect and how history isn't being rewritten by people. There's a lot of people, I understand it, in order to make sense, they turn it into a conspiracy theory and they say, oh, the elite are rewriting the history books, or they're re-editing movies, or they're, and I understand that. People have to do whatever they have to do to try to make sense of it. But I've come to the conclusion that history, actual history, has rewritten itself. And there is a higher dimensional aspect to it, which I believe that the higher dimensional beings have had a hand in rewriting events to give us a message. I believe that the message is very clear. Whenever you interpret the messages of the actual Mandela Effect, some of it is not. Some of it is people just don't know their history. Some people remember things wrong. That's a real thing. But certain things, the message is undeniably clear, and the message is a positive one. And the message is always about shifting to a higher, more happy state of mind. And the message is, whenever something changes, it always changes something that was either devaluing or violent or in some way negative. It turns it into a positive. For example, Annie, the musical. That you can still find it. There's so much residual evidence, it's ridiculous. But the song "Tomorrow, Tomorrow, I Love You Tomorrow, You're Always a Day Away" is the line. You can still find that all over the place. But the Mandela Effect has changed it. And it's not people have changed it. You go back farther in time, history has changed, and the words to the music have changed to "You're only a day away." And the message is very clear. The message is that the higher dimensional shift is coming, and to have hope, and that when we get into this new reality, there won't be the devaluation that goes on right now. People are, and I use the word devaluation in a psychological sense. When somebody abuses you, when somebody damages you, it devalues your worth. You feel unworthy, you feel shame. Another example is Burns and Allen, the comedy show. They had a shtick that they did for decades. I think something like 30 years. And when they were finishing their show, whether it was a stage show or whether it was a TV show or whatever, he would always say to her, "Say good night, Gracie," and she would say, "Good night, Gracie." And the joke is she's thick. She's she's a dumb woman. She's not that smart. And so the message is very clear that in the new 5D, there will be no longer devaluing people, devaluing women, saying women aren't smart as men, or, she devalued herself, even though it was funny and it was lighthearted. There was really nothing bad about it. The truth is that we were laughing at somebody being stupid, and we thought that was funny. Say goodnight, Gracie. Good night, Gracie. And she stopped doing that. She never says it now. She has never said it, even though there's a movie that they did back in the 40s or something called Good Night, Gracie. Now reality says she's never once said that. When he says, say goodnight, Gracie, she just now says goodnight. And the message is clear. The message is no longer will you be devalued, no longer will you be judged superficially. You know, everyone will be treated with respect, everyone will be treated with value. And that slight shift was conscious. There's some being somewhere, either a higher dimensional being or perhaps us in the future, sending ourselves a message saying that number one, your reality is not fixed. History, time, physical reality is not fixed. And there's no coincidence that while the Mandela Effect occurs, it seemingly occurred right around 2012 and afterwards. There's no coincidence that right around that time is when you see a huge increase in extraterrestrial sightings. And the message is clear. The message is to wake you up that you are in fact in an illusion. The illusion of 3D time. Now the sad part is that the majority of people who believe in the Mandela Effect and believe what I just said, they put a negative twist on it. And they turn it into you are being manipulated by higher beings who want to trap you. And just all this victim mentality, which again for me is just intolerable. It's just so hard for me to listen to because you know, I really want people to be happy. And it's just, I wish that I had more patience with it, but I don't have any patience with victimment. I don't have any patience for people who choose to be victims, who choose to cause themselves harm. It's very hard for me to have patience for that. Perhaps that's a reflection of myself. Because I don't want to do that to myself. I want to do everything in my power to give myself happiness, peace, joy, prosperity. And so perhaps that's it. It's my impatience with myself. Surely that has something to do with it. So I guess what I'm saying is I don't see the solar wave hitting right now. If it is a real thing, it did not happen within the 24 hours. I said, let's make this thing happen now. That doesn't mean anything one way or another. It can still happen. I find that when it comes to these kinds of things that you don't put a clock to it. And the other thing is also, I tried to make this clear yesterday, what we did yesterday was huge. I mean, I can only speak for myself. It was absolutely huge. It was enormous. I expended energy on a multi-dimensional level that I did not realize at the time, but when I woke up, actually afterwards, when I was done with it, I was like, what did I just do to myself? And when I woke up this morning, I said, I feel like I've just ran 10 marathons. So today I definitely took some time off from, anything spiritual. And I said, I just need to be a 3D human for a while. And my experience is that when I expend that much energy in some kind of a shamanic activity, the thing to do is now don't mess with it. Just leave it alone. So those of you, if you're really excited and you want to bring the 5D shift, and we did what we did yesterday, and you want to keep doing that, my suggestion is don't. Just leave it alone. What we can do now is we can start living as though it did happen. That is something we can do. What we can do each individually, we can individually shift to a higher state. For the past 3 months, especially the past month, I have been in a completely different realm. I mean, the amount of Kundalini that's been going through me, the amount of DMT that my brain has been releasing. I mean, I have been on a psychedelic trip for, weeks on end. And I've had to really work hard to keep myself, just doing normal things, just functioning. And keeping my sanity and all. So I know that we can live at that level. We can live at that 5D level. And the things that we can do are the things that I've been teaching you. We do need to be doing energy work, because if we don't open up our meridians, if we don't open up our energy meridians, if we don't open up our chakras, we won't have the wiring to handle the higher vibrational energy. And we have to continue to be vigilant and look at our negative thinking. There's just I can just tell you, absolutely, there is no space in 5D for anger, resentment, shame, hatred of others, devaluing others, judging others. There's no place in 5D for that. And if you hang on to that, as many people, the ironic thing, I would say, I don't know what the percentage is, but a huge percentage of the people who are pushing this 5D thing and this ascension shift, a huge percentage of them are filled with self-righteous anger and indignation at people they deem to be evil, the elite. And so on the one hand, people will, in the same breath, just completely, totally clueless of their own negativity. In the same breath, they will say how we're going to reach this new level of awareness and a higher dimension, and there's going to be love and beauty, and all of those evil people are going to go to hell, and we're going to string them up, and we're going to hunt them down. The same people who believe in this, probably the same people who made this graphic right here, the same people are saying, we're going to string them up, and there's just no place for that. Now, I'm not saying to deny your feelings, not by any stretch of the imagination. If you have anger, and if you have resentment, and if you feel shame, you should allow yourself to feel those things. But we want to move through those things. We want to address them and move through them. And so counseling is very important. Find yourself a good counselor, a mentor, any kind of spiritual practice that forces you, like the lightning qigong forces you to feel your uncomfortable feelings. And if you want to progress in the especially the Mao Shan, if you want to progress in that, you're going to have to face all of your negative feelings and process them. Because if you don't, you will limit the amount of energy you'll be able to generate. Anyway, so I'm happy to open it up for questions. I'm sort of running out of things to say, but I'm happy to open it up for questions. And I'd like to know, anybody who did the meditation with me yesterday, did you have an experience? What experiences did you have? But other than that, I'm happy to take questions. If you have a question, write the word question in all caps so that I see it. That's the whole point. I don't want to miss your question. And I'm also interested in your honest feelings. I'm not a whole lot interested in anything else. And if you write something else, I'm just telling you, here's the thing. People who don't write questions and feelings, invariably what they're going to do is they're going to show me their ego. Because the only reason to dump an opinion is to dump your ego. And so that's another reason. I mean, you dump your ego in front of me, I'm going to dissect it as a teaching lesson to the rest of the peanut gallery. So it's always the best idea just to ask an honest question or to share an honest feeling. Feeling is not an opinion. All right, let's take a look what we got here. Well, nothing. Let's see. Vincent.thunderwizard.com has said hello. You can check out his website. He's one of my Vedic astrologers. Andrina Moronese. Looks like a good Italian name. So you're welcome to the channel, Andrina. And there's nobody here today, but normally I'd like for you to write the word question in all caps, just the word question, so that I see it. Today I'm going to see it because there's only 4 comments there. So you say, are 2 reality timelines coming together? If I'm being honest, I don't know, but my strong feeling is no. That is not what's happening. If we're talking about the Mandela Effect, I do not believe the Mandela Effect is the result of 2 timelines crashing. Reason for that being, if it were 2 timelines crashing, it would destroy the world. We would destroy ourselves. Because there would be people who lived in a timeline where you drive on the right side of the road in the United States, and then there'll be another timeline of somebody who drives on the left side of the road. Cars would be smashing into each other. There'd be people who, speak different languages, and there would be, people with 3 heads and 1 head, and it would just be absolute total bedlam and chaos. And so when we look at the Mandela Effect, the things that are changing in history are changing because somebody or a group of people or beings are consciously allowing these shifts to happen in history. And like I said, there's a message to all of it. All of the changes have a message to it, even if we don't understand it. Like the one I don't understand is why Kennedy's motorcade car, why it changed from a 4-seater to a 6-seater. And why the Zapruder film has 6 seats, 3 bench seats in a car, but the official photographs after the fact of the car that were published in, I believe it was Life magazine, why it's a 4-seater. And then even more strange than that, why nobody notices. I mean, there's a video on YouTube where they show the Zapruder film and it shows 6 seats. And you hear the official photographer talking about the photograph he took, and then they show the photograph, just seconds afterwards, and there's nobody in the comments going, "Wait a minute, why is there only 4 seats in the photograph but 6 in the film? Why does nobody even notice it?" I don't know. So no, to answer your question, in my opinion, we aren't. There's no 2 timelines crashing into each other. This is one timeline that we are seeing, like peeling an onion. We're looking at other possible timelines that could have emerged but didn't. And then, of course, when the timeline itself actually changes, when the history has been changed, actually changed, not, superficially rewritten by humans, but when the actual timeline history changes, then that means there's going to be a lot of people whose memory are going to change with it. And then there's going to be people like me who are old enough to remember. But one of the interesting things that happens with this is it's also really interesting to see how 3-dimensional reality, or probably any dimensional reality you live in, writes your belief about what reality is. And if you are not in the process of waking up, you will be hypnotized into the new illusion that's being created. So for me, an example is somebody said something, when I first started looking at this, somebody said, the Disney logo at the beginning of the wonderful world of Disney, that whole opening has changed. And I was watching it, not buying into any of it. And somebody said, "What do you remember of the opening," in some video before they showed it? "What do you remember of the opening of the Wonderful World of Disney. And I hit pause because I didn't want to be, influenced. And I remembered exactly what it was. That there was the castle that came up with the fireworks. This is back in the 60s and 70s for me. And then Tinkerbell comes flying from the right side of the screen. She flies into the screen and uses her wand to write the whole word Disney, and then uses her wand to dot the I, which then creates this explosion of stars, and then you go into the next scene. There was another one where she came out and she couldn't get her wand to work, and then she dots the I. And I remembered that. Before I watched it, I remembered it, and I remembered it as clear as day. I said, I've watched it so many times, I know exactly what it is. And then I pressed play, and sure enough, it had changed. And I went through, it was very traumatic for me. But it wasn't such a big deal that, because when I watched the new the new version of it, I watched it enough. I in order to feel sane, I felt myself being hypnotized into, oh yeah, I guess that is the way it was. And I stopped myself and I said, no, I'm not going to let myself lose this reality. I'm not losing my mind. I know what I saw every single Sunday night as a little kid. So this is happening a lot. There are people that don't remember, that remember things differently. And I believe it's because, again, this is a real historical timeline now, and it's going to reverberate up to wherever you are. And if you allow it to, the new reality will take over the old reality. And to me, that's just another sign of how we allow our reality to hypnotize us into believing that this reality is 100% real. And the truth is, it's not. And we know this from physics, that light is a potential. That, whenever the experiments are done with the slits and, is light a particle or a wave, the end result is that when nobody's watching it, is that light is a potential. It's just this potential of it could be both or neither. And that is our reality. Your physical reality that you live in, your physical body, for me, a table, chair, a cup of tea, all of these physical things are only probabilities until I, the observer, choose to observe it. And then whatever probability I'm carrying with me is what's going to create that reality. And when you wake up, you first become aware that this reality you live in is it's not a true reality. It's a projection. It's a probability. And then when you can get to that state and you don't have attachments, meaning you don't have anger, you don't have fear, you don't have self-directed negativity, you don't have shame, because all of that is based on attachment. People don't realize it, but their negative feelings is what attaches them. So all of you self-righteous people who want to, who think the queen is evil and should, that we should excoriate her for having whatever you think she did to the world. She's dead now. Leave her alone. She's dead. That all of those negative feelings actually attach you to the very reality you say you want to ascend beyond. Our negative feelings is what pulls us down. And I'm not here to say you shouldn't have negative feelings, because human beings do. But I am saying you should take responsibility for them and be willing to go through the painful process of looking at them, taking responsibility for your life and working through them. And besides that, the fastest way to do that, by the way, the fastest way to do that is to focus on what gives you joy. When you focus on what gives you joy and you take action to achieve that, all of those attachments will come up. The negativity, the fear, the doubt, you'll project your self-directed negativity onto others, onto the world, and those will come up. And the idea is to be aware of that and go, oh, that's my attachment. And then be willing to do the work to go through it. Then when you're in that state and you're able to know what your joy is, then you're able to shift this probability state of reality that you live in and create what you want. Create your perfect life, your perfect home, your perfect relationship. All of these things are variables. One of the interesting things that's happened to me just in the past month, I've noticed. So I've been going through a huge shamanic transformation, extremely painful, emotionally, psychologically brutal. But I've gotten rid of, lifetimes worth of karma, huge amounts of pain, huge amounts of anger, resentment, sadness, shame. Gotten rid of a big, huge chunk of it. And the interesting thing is that the people in my life, even if they're not my student, people in my life are having these huge awakenings. And they're becoming, they're turning their lives around and becoming more successful and more prosperous. And I've come to realize that that's a reflection of me. I change myself. I become more positive. I become more awake and more aware. And my reality, which includes the people in it, that shifts to rise up to the level of my awareness. So if you want, for example, I'll give you an example. Let's say you don't like the way your spouse treats you. Go into meditation instead of sitting your spouse down and telling them what they need to do and why you have a problem with them and why instead of doing that, go into meditation and imagine seeing your spouse as a perfect being. Imagine seeing them as this being of light who is extremely conscious and aware, and imagine them being happy. And imagine what they can achieve, what they can truly achieve. Not for what you selfishly want from them, but what they can truly achieve. And then enjoy seeing them being on this higher level. If you do that on a regular basis, I guarantee you your spouse will change. And if you're able to do that, in general, your reality will shift. And as I'm ascending, if you want to use that word, random people around me are popping up and ascending on their own. We could discuss what that's all about, but anyway. So, okay, a bunch more questions here. So, wow, somebody's really got a lot of questions. Question, Dear Thunder Wizard, a belated happy birthday. Thank you. Why do we need to try and bring the solar flash instead of waiting for when it comes? I didn't say you had to do that. Where did I say you had to do anything? That question is it's not a valid question. And the truth is, you're not being really honest with that question. There's a feeling behind it. I'm much more interested in the feeling behind that question. The question is designed, you don't mean it to, but it's designed to put me in a corner and devalue me. Because you are saying that I am saying that we need to do something. You're saying I'm trying to force you into doing something. Or you have that feeling. And it really makes me think, so does the solar flash frighten you? I was very frightened of it. That's one of the reasons that I faced it, because the thought of it frightened me. And so I tend to face the thing, I try to face the things that frighten me. So the easiest way for me to deal with my fear was to actually meditate to bring it about. So it makes me think that you might be afraid of this. And I'm much more interested in talking with you about your fear than having you try and force me in a corner and shove words down my throat and then put me into this because it's a negative, somebody could very easily, you may not have meant it this way, but somebody could very easily have said, well, why do I need to do what you just said I have to do? Why do you, it's an aggressive, controlling question, and it's not coming from where your emotions really are. All right. So you go on your next question. You said Jesus didn't exist. I totally agree. What about the other ascended masters? What about them? What is it you want me to say? You want me to say that they do or they didn't exist? Was Odin a real person, or is he a symbolic representation? So, Jesus is supposed to be a historical figure. So we have to separate when we're talking about the Abrahamic tradition. The Abrahamic tradition, to the best of my knowledge, was the first religion that their mythology was presented as historical fact, literal historical fact. And until then, there had been no such thing. There had been no such religion that, the Greeks didn't, the Vedics, nobody brought forth their God as being a flesh and blood. And if they did, it wasn't meant to be placed in any time. The avatars of Vishnu were never meant to be seen as from this year to this year, even though some Hindus try and do that. So again, you're imposing stuff and you're conflating two different things. It's a worthwhile question, but Jesus was supposed to be a literal historical figure, and that literal historical figure never existed. That is a fact. Odin was never meant to be seen that way. What he is, I'm going to leave up to you. You ask questions about what he is, and I'm not going to answer that, because that's not a question that's supposed to be answered. That's your question, probably based on the fact that you live in a society that uses these dualistic, Abrahamic templates for deities and mythologies. We get rid of that. That question never needs to be asked. You got another question here. Boy, you keep putting words in my mouth here. Dear Mike, you constantly say money is going away soon. How do you see the world without money? How is that going to work? How does that question help you? Your real question isn't that. Again, your question is about let me give you an example. There's plenty of people out there that if I say to them, money is going away, they're not going to ask me, how do they function? They're going to go, oh, thank the gods. This whole money thing is just ridiculous. In other words, they know how things are going to function. So again, we're bumping into what sounds to me like a fear of yours. You're wondering, how are you going to function without money? So really, I'm more interested in your feelings about what happens if money goes away, rather than, again, trying to nail me to the wall to have me answer these impossible to answer questions. Let's see. Gilly's honest feeling. I feel embarrassed for all the strange questions I asked. I understand that. I feel I want your approval and I want to show I was paying attention in your class. Okay. So good. So there was something about it that was bugging me. I didn't know what. So your codependence came through, and that's good. So now you're aware of it. Now we can deal with, or you can deal with, these feelings that you have of wanting my approval, which you don't realize is aggressive. So it makes me want to ask you all kinds of questions about your parents and et cetera, et cetera. But it means that you have some work to do to learn to love yourself some more. Learn to accept yourself for who you are. Learn to truly love you. And then you won't have as strong a need to get my approval. But this is the first step, and I absolutely honor you and congratulate you for having the honesty to see that what's happening is that you're trying to get my approval, which has nothing to do with me, and it has nothing to do with these questions. It has everything to do with you not loving yourself, needing to find something outside of you to give you validation and approval. And I totally relate. I operate the same way. I'm just as human as you are. Now it makes me want to ask you the next question. You're not subscribed here, are you? You're not doing the lightning qigong practices on a daily basis, are you? Am I wrong? I could be wrong. It's the whole point. The whole point of these practices here at thunderwizard.com is, again, my channel is not about me talking. Me talking is virtually meaningless. The only thing that matters is taking the action. We live in a universe that responds to action, not to thoughts, not to feelings. Not that you shouldn't have your feelings. Ironically, the universe is also filled with emotion. The higher you go in dimensions, the more intense the emotions get. Did I say the higher in dimensions, emotions? Yeah. So you're supposed to have all of your feelings, but you need to bring them to your consciousness. And when you're unconscious of them, you act out in these ways. But we live in a world now. Our society thinks that for instance, religion went from before the Abrahamic traditions came in. Religion went from being purely about ritual. When you went to you went to the temple, the priest did some ritual, and you had some part in that ritual. That was religion. Nobody sat behind a podium and moralized at you. And then all of a sudden, Abrahamic religion comes along, and then all of a sudden, religion becomes about morals and ideas and beliefs. And then it morphs into Christianity, which is 100% about your intellectual belief. In fact, your salvation isn't based on anything other than your belief in Jesus dying for your sins. If you believe that, then you're saved. So then religion becomes about people standing behind a podium and moralizing, and then people think that, as long as I believe this, I'm saved. So, anyway, I don't know what started all that. Gilly's question. I want to completely drop the victim mentality like you teach, but sometimes I still feel like a victim. How do I deal with that? I never told you to get rid of the feelings, but I keep telling you what to do. You have all of your thoughts and all of your feelings without any judgment. You love yourself through them. You take the actions that you know will result in your happiness and the happiness of others. And as you go after it, again, Gillies, it makes me want to ask you, have you read the book, The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life? Have you watched the video about it? So to answer your question, the short answer to your question is you need to be doing energy work and meditation. You also need a teacher. You strike me as a young person. I can't tell how old you are, but the way you talk, you strike me as a young person, and you need guidance. So you need a mentor, you need a teacher, perhaps a counselor, and you need to be doing energy work and meditation. So stop all the thinking and do the work and get into taking action based on your joy and learning how to do that. All right. Max out. Question. Would you recommend wearing sunstone gem to empower sun? Would I recommend it? I mean, I'm not wearing anything. I wear a moonstone because in my Vedic astrology, moon is my Dharma Devata. So when somebody gets an astrological reading from me or from any of my astrologers, if you want to go, you can get a reading Go to astrology.thunderwizard.com, and there's plenty of people on there that are giving, you know, giving good prices, and you will find out what gemstone you need to wear. In terms of the solar flash, you're asking me, should you wear a sunstone gem to empower the sun? You mean for the solar flash? It's okay with me. Do it and see what happens. But you're already saying that I told you in a reading, an astrology reading, to get a red ruby or a red topaz. How is red topaz hard to get? What are you talking about? That's the easiest thing to get. Topazes are cheap. Rubies are expensive. So that tells me you haven't even bothered to try and get red topaz. Carnelian, I mean, let's see what else. Yes, thank you, Galiz. The solar flash scares you. I get it. I felt fear myself. I'm not afraid now, and the reason I'm not afraid now is because I went after it. I did everything in my power to face it, so much so that I did that meditation partially because I wanted to face it. Even in my fear, I knew it was what I wanted. That if it existed, and my fear was about my fear of, you know, we all have fear of evolution. Here's the thing. People aren't afraid of failure. People are afraid of success. And that's just normal. We have resistance towards our evolution. So I was aware that my fear was my resistance towards my evolution, and the fastest way for me to deal with it is to acknowledge it and then take contrary action. So I did the exact opposite of what my fear was trying to get me to do. And so I said, I'm going to bring it about. I mean, if it kills me, it kills me. If I get destroyed, so be it. I mean, I'm not going to, I'd rather go after something and have it destroy me than not. And again, that's because I take the philosophy of my ancestors literally. You know, my Norse ancestors believed that, I mean, their whole life mantra was, those who die in battle go to Valhalla. And what it means is, if you go after what you want, even if it'll kill you in the process, you will go to Valhalla. And in every single instance of my life, when I've faced homelessness and, you know, all of that, you know, it's either I work for Walmart, you know, and have a job, or I create my own business and I run the risk of being homeless. I mean, I'd rather die than work at Walmart. You know what I mean? So if going after making my own business means I end up dying on the street, then so be it. At least I died going after what I wanted, you know? So that means, you know, it doesn't say those who have no fear go to Valhalla. It says, no, those who die in battle. So the assumption is that people going off to battle are going to be afraid, but they go anyway. So go after what you want, no matter what the fear is, and in my experience, you will become aware of your self-sabotage, you know, your negativity, your shame, your self-hatred, your resistance. You'll become aware of all that. And you become aware of it going after it, not sitting on your butt waiting for things to get better, because they don't. The only thing that happens when you sit on your butt is you get older. That's it. If when you want something, you go after it, no matter what. Even if you end up, you know, like I said, you face the fear. As long as you know that that's what you truly want, you face the fear and go after it. What else? Answer to your question, I do your free practices. Which one? I wish I could subscribe to your services, but I'm from Russia and we've been cut off from the banking system. When it's back, I'll subscribe. So you can do, I have on here somewhere, I don't have the link for it, but I have a video that I made that tells you a bunch of practices to do. But you should be doing that every day, like for an hour a day. You should be doing some level of energy work and meditation on a daily basis. And make that what you do every day. And if you do that, you'll shift. You might have some challenges. More than likely you will, but you will shift. And the idea is that when you're in that state, you have a much better chance of creating the reality that you want. For instance, you live in Russia, and you're cut off from the banking system. All right. Now, if we take that at face value, it means, oh, I can't do anything. I don't have access to the banking system. I can't pay for this. I can't do that. And instead of understanding that that is as much an illusion as anything else. And if you stay in the potential state where, light is, when nobody's looking at light, it is just this pattern of potential. Right? Same with everything in your reality doesn't exist until you look at it. So you live in Russia right now and you don't have access to the banking system. Focus on what you want. Don't focus on the things that are keeping you from being able to get it. Focus on what you want, and that probability pattern finds a way to give you exactly what you want. Now, just like light, when somebody, what they found in the most recent experiments is that when somebody is observing light and your intention is to see it as a particle or a wave, let's say you want to see it as a particle, then what ends up happening is that it goes all the way through without being anything until just before, it strikes whatever the film is. And then it goes back in time and then makes it look like it was always going to be whatever you thought it was. So when you hold on to this reality, this is important for you guys to realize, that if you hold on to the understanding that your life is a probability pattern, and the way to master it is to go after what you truly want, to face your fears, take actions towards what you truly want, you'll end up getting it, but it will look like it was going to do that anyway. Somebody will say, well, of course that's how it happened. You did this and you got that. But truth is, the probability of you getting that is just as improbable as anything else. I mean, during the pandemic, I was in the safest place in the world, and it happened to be the place I wanted to be the most. I was in Queensland, Australia. It was completely sheltered from the rest of the world. There was no COVID. There was no lockdown. And I had the time of my life, and I didn't have to leave. My visa wouldn't have let me stay there for 2.5 years, but because of COVID, I said, I can't go back to the US because it's unsafe. And they said, okay. And I got to stay in Australia for 2.5 years, living in a 3-story, 3-bedroom house in the rainforest right across from the ocean. I mean, that happened because I stayed in that state of listening to what my joy wants for me. And I went after it. And if you go back in my videos before I do it, you can hear me say, I'm going to go to Australia. I have no idea if I can afford it or what's going to happen. And but I'm going to do it anyway. And I'm selling all my stuff and I'm going to get on a plane. And it turned out that was the perfect time to go, because right after that, the whole world went to shit for 2.5 years. And I got to be in paradise. And I'm living in paradise now, and I'm enjoying it. And as it turns out, I can go back to Australia. They've dropped all the requirements, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, I'm babbling. Let's see what else. You say, yes, of course I've read your book, Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. So then why are you asking me these questions? You already know what to do. So it hasn't gotten any more complicated. You listen to what your soul wants. Your soul will tell you. You will have a period of maybe a flash of inspiration where you feel giddy joy about something that makes you happy. And that is literally God's commandment. That is God telling you what you're supposed to do. What's going to happen right after that is you're then going to close down, probably become fearful. You're going to talk yourself out of it. You're going to become afraid. And you're going to say why you can't do it. But you now have to go and do it. The joy was your command. Now you have to go do it. And if you do that, the universe has to give you what you want. And in the process, you will evolve. In the process, you will become aware of all of your shame, all of your fear, all that stuff we need to get past, and you will conquer it as long as you don't let your feelings stop you. Remember, this is a universe of action. Action is what tells in three dimensions. In other dimensions, it's different. In higher dimensions, it's not about action. Because in higher dimensions, you don't have an unconscious to overcome. In 3 dimensions, you have an unconscious to overcome, and you overcome your unconscious through your actions. It's unavoidable. Okay, this is strange. Well, let me get rid of this. Let me get rid of the spam here. Hold on. All right, gotta get rid of the porn spam. Awaken with Adi, this is a question and answer. I'm not interested in sharing opinions. If you want to have an opinion, please feel free to do it on your own channel. Share your truth with other people. Get other people involved. Again, anytime people come on the channel and they don't ask a question or share a feeling, you're dumping your ego, and I'm going to be stimulated to slice your ego to pieces. All right, so all of this superficial, we are our own guru, everything is within, you don't realize how destructive that is, what you just said. We all need outside gurus. We all need teachers. All the people that I know that say that and refuse to work with other teachers or other mentors, they are miserable. They're unconscious and destructive. It doesn't mean that you don't seek to become your own guru. But again, this is what happens when you come on here and dump an opinion or dump a superficial thing because you want to be part of the discussion. This is my classroom. You want to be a part of my classroom? You ask a question. Let's see what else. What does this mean? I don't know. Tomorrow I saw a bright star. What do you mean? You said tomorrow, which is in the future, and then you said I saw, which is in the past. So is it because English is not your first language? So tomorrow I saw a bright star because of clear sky, and then I suddenly saw 3 objects moving together in a fast way. Are you having a shamanic vision where you're seeing in the future and that's what's going to happen tomorrow? I don't know what you're saying. What else? Osho. Yeah, see, Osho was a drug addict. Osho was a narcissist. Osho used to be Sri Rajneesh, an extremely destructive person. Why do you have Osho on there? Why are you promoting that? Very destructive individual. And he's dead, so I don't feel bad about it. If he was alive, I might not say anything. Gillies, feeling. I'm going to focus on what I want. It's not a feeling. And I'm not going to let anyone suck me into negativity as long as I follow my soul case. So that's not a feeling, but I'm happy for you, and I hope you're able to follow through with that. That's my goal as well. Josmir Carr, question. Please write the word question in all caps so I can see it. I am having a ringing sound. It started in a scary dream or sleep paralysis. I was hearing it in my dream, and after waking up, I was able to listen to it. Was trying astral travel. You were trying astral travel and it happened. Do you see what I'm doing? You're making me do that. I've been having ringing in my right ear since June. And it happened when I did CE5, which is reaching out and connecting to extraterrestrial higher dimensional beings. From that moment on, my right ear has been ringing. And so, assuming that there isn't something physically wrong with you, it's possible that you tapped into a higher dimensional energy. And that's the result of it. So the thing to do is when you resist it, it gets worse. So I don't know what's going on with you. I can't say what's going on with you because I never thought anything like this was even possible. I didn't know anything about higher dimensions. I mean, the stuff that happens on higher dimensions is not something I've ever experienced before. The energy jolts that I get in my body are just so strange and weird. They're like nothing I've ever felt, and it doesn't feel like it's part of our dimension. And it can be really scary. But the fear is because when you tap into higher dimension and higher dimensional beings, your three-dimensional reality starts to come apart. It starts to come apart because you start to see that three-dimensional reality is an illusion. And from the fifth dimension, 3D is a projection. It's like a movie projection. And they see it for what it is. The same way when we look at, if we were to look at a two-dimensional world, we would see that as just this flat two-dimensional projection. We would see that it wasn't completely real from our perspective. And we would be like these magical, powerful beings if we tried to interact with two-dimensional beings. So if you did, if you say you did an astral travel, I don't know, but there's a good chance you tapped into a higher dimension, and now you're connected to that. And you know, you're getting, the other thing is the messages that come from higher dimensions. This is how you know, by the way, this is how you know you're dealing with a higher dimension as opposed to a lower dimension. So a higher dimension, when they interact with you, they will give you such incredibly, overwhelmingly positive feelings, and they will tell you, they will tell you things that are just implausible, but they're all good. They will never say anything negative. It'll feel like you're becoming, delusional. And in the third dimension, the things that they say are just absolute delusion, because it's so unbelievable how amazing you are. And because they're seeing you from the fifth dimension. And from the fifth dimension, you are all of those things that they talk about, or the higher dimensions. In three dimensions, you're just this three-dimensional person just, struggling along. But when they tell you your true essence and what you truly are, your third-dimensional brain is going to want to go, I can't deal with that. And so what I found is, if I fight with the very healing and extremely challenging, because here's the thing, being truly loved, everybody thinks what they want is to be truly loved and to be truly seen. But if you were with somebody who truly saw you at your highest essence, the truth of you, you wouldn't be able to handle it. You would leave that person because it's so frightening to be truly loved and seen. It's one of the most frightening things we can experience. So when you do astral travel and you deal with higher dimensional beings, your self-negative experience of yourself, which you need in order to have an ego in 3D, is going to fight that. And one of the symptoms that you're fighting your higher dimensional self is things like ringing in the ears, things like that. So you've done it. Now you've reached out to something. I would say, keep going back and doing the shamanic traveling and work towards integrating a higher, more positive view of yourself. If the messages you're getting are negative, then you tapped into something lower. What else? Kelly Robbins question, 3 days to prior to my first session with a healer and ayahuasca. Okay, so we're going into a whole other deal now, but let me see what you have to say here. So 3 days prior to session you were going to take hallucinogens, which incidentally stopped 58 years of suicidality. I experienced what seemed like thousands of volts, you mean volts, thousands of volts going through my body. That's not a question. Your question is this something that you have seen, heard of, or can understand? Those are three different questions. Is this something I've seen? Well, in a slightly different context, yes. Have I heard of it? Yes. Can I understand it? Yes. I still don't know what your question is. I'm holding myself because I want to start analyzing things that you've said, but you're just wanting me to co-sign your experience. And okay, it's an experience. You had that experience. You went to go do ayahuasca, and this was your experience. And sure. How can I tell you your experience is wrong? You had that experience, and you want me to co-sign it. Yes, you had that experience. I'm glad. It sounds like it was positive, and I'm happy for you. But I'd be more interested in hearing what your actual question for me is about that, if there is one. Welcome to my channel. I'm sorry, I know I can be just a real pain in the rear end, but that's just the way that I do things. Sorry. Question, Carl, write the word question in all caps, please, so I can see it. A long time ago, I pulled out black larva worm out of my ear that had a weak blue shining light head. First off, Carl, you've got to be clear on what you're talking about here. Was this in waking 3D reality, or was it in a dream, or was it in meditation? Because if you're saying in physical 3D reality without having your consciousness altered, you literally pulled out a worm out of your head that had a blue head, then I'm going to say that there's a good chance that you need to go see a psychologist. You have to let me know. Are you saying in a dream? What are you talking about? Were you high? How and when was this going on? And you're not giving me a question. You're telling me what you think. You give me what it is, and then you say, "I think it was a bad entity." Question mark? I don't know. You experienced it. Well, you already have an idea about it. That's what you think. I'm not going to disagree with you. Galiz, honest feeling. I'm over here in Russia and feel so empowered by someone over there in Florida, a place I've never been. It's so crazy. Yeah. Well, sorry you're going through that. I understand. Yasimar Carr, question in all caps, please, so that I can see it. I was very, very fearful when first that started. What are we talking about here? When first what started? Now I have to go back and find out what you were saying. Oh, the ringing in your ears. I was very fearful when that first started, and for the first few nights, ringing was like it is erasing my thoughts, and my mind starts to become blank. Is that your experience too? No, that's not my experience, but here's the thing. One of the challenges with dealing with, and I'm just going to assume because I don't know you, because the truth is this could all be projection, this could all be delusion. I don't know. I don't know you well enough to know how sane you are. But this could be, all of it could be all of those things. The thing about dealing with higher dimensional beings is that you will have to face your delusions. You will have to face your fears. You won't know half the time what the messages you're getting. Is it coming from inside of you, or is it coming from the entities that you're interacting with? That's one of the limitations of dealing with an entity from another dimension. Because one of the best ways to understand this is to watch Carl Sagan's video about the fourth dimension. And he talks about what would happen to a second dimensional being if we, third dimensional beings, tried to talk to it. So if you went to a second dimensional being and you said, "Hello, two-dimensional being," the two-dimensional being would, number one, wouldn't understand how in his closed two-dimensional home that somebody was there. How did they get in? And number two, they wouldn't see you, they wouldn't hear you, but they would feel inside of them the greeting. "Hello, two-dimensional being," would start from inside of them and explode outward. And they would think it was their own voice, and yet it would feel like it was coming from somewhere else. So the end result is you start going nuts. Now, if you are having a dialogue with a higher dimensional being, in my experience, this is what I experience, I will feel a jolt in my body. And it'll be all different kinds of feelings because I don't know why. I assume they're different beings, maybe from different dimensions. I don't know. But I'll feel a jolt in my body. It will feel very like an electronic jolt, but it's not. You know that it's not from 3D, but it's coming from inside of my heart center, and it explodes outwards. And there may be intense feelings in it, and there might be sort of messages in there. And I find I hear my head talking to me as though my mind is thinking, and it feels like I'm thinking thoughts to myself. But the thoughts that I'm thinking to myself are things that I've never thought of before, and at the same time there's this intense feeling. So it's really hard, because then what happens is if you start interacting with it, you want there to be a dialogue, so you find yourself creating thoughts and trying to help it out, and then you can't tell the difference between your thoughts and the actual message that's coming from the higher dimensional being. It can really make you go crazy. And if I hadn't been 40 years in 12 steps and 25 years in therapy and 30 years practicing spiritual practices, there's a good chance I might have gone bonkers. I might have completely lost it, because it can really make you feel like you're going crazy. So the thing that I do is I just don't take any of it seriously. I mean, I do the best that I can, but if I have a vision or an intense communication with a higher dimensional being, I have to I don't fight it. I listen to it, I experience it, I enjoy the energy, because my body will get filled with this intense energy, and I just enjoy it, and I don't do anything about it, and I just don't fight it. And if you want, you can turn it off. So if it's happening, it means that at the very least on an unconscious level, you want this connection. And if you want this connection, then it's good that you become conscious of it, because it is possible to want it and fear it and then get into this fight with yourself, and then you will drive yourself crazy. The other thing I don't do is I don't try and figure it out, because it's coming from another dimension, and the stuff that they say doesn't always make sense in 3D. They also don't deal on our time is not the same for them. So one thing you don't do, I've learned, with a higher dimensional being is ask, when is such and such going to happen? Because they're seeing multiple possible timelines, and they might see something that's in your future, but hasn't happened yet. So they're seeing it, and they're seeing if things continue in that certain timeline, maybe it'll take 3 weeks. But again, 3 weeks for them could be 3 years for you. So you don't ask that. When it comes to dealing with that, you just have to have a light touch, and you just have to flow with it. And if you don't like it, then stop it. Get honest about it and say, I want this to stop. And say, I just want to be human again. Without fighting, I'm going crazy. You don't get into that. Just go, you know what? I'm just going to focus on being human. You guys do whatever you're going to do. I'm just going to focus on my thing. All right. Carl says, in a dream. So in a dream, you pulled a larva worm out of your ear and you think it was a bad entity and you're asking me? It wasn't my dream, it was yours. What am I supposed to tell you? Here's what you want. You want me to tell you that you pulled out a demon out of your ear. That's what you want me to tell you. You want me to co-sign this because it makes you feel like you're having a spiritual experience, and you want me to tell you basically, yes, you're a spiritual person. You saw this. And at the same time, you're wanting me to co-sign your victim mentality. So what you may not know about me is I used to be an exorcist. Like, I used to cast demons out. I mean, and I've seen demons. I've seen demons come through people's faces. I've looked demons in the face. The vast majority of time that people think they have demons, they don't have demons. What they have is unresolved unconscious issues that they project. In fact, many of the demonic spirits that people experience as poltergeists are not spirits at all. They're their own unconscious that for some reason, maybe there's an energy in the space, or they really regressed or something like that, and they squish their own unconscious flies around their house and knocks over things, and they think, oh my God, demons are ahead. So, my friend, you're new to my channel. Carl, forgive me for saying so. You're new to my channel, so you don't know any better. But no, I don't think it was a bad entity. I think you had a frightening dream, and I think the thing to do is to go deeper into what it is that you thought that was. All of that. I don't know you anymore. I don't know you well to go any more deep than that. So my first answer to your question is, no, I don't think it was a demon. I think it might have been a very significant dream, but that's up for you to figure out what that is. What else? Jasimar Carr, question. I'm just hearing that ringing sound. So how do I know it's negative or positive? Make the decision. If you want it to be negative, then you can drive yourself crazy and you can feel like a victim and you can run around and do all that. Or you can, and who said it has to be one or the other? Why does it have to be positive? It doesn't have to be positive or negative. Why does it have to be one or the other? It could just be neutral. It doesn't have to be anything. My suggestion is to go to a doctor, see if there's something wrong with your hearing. And if there's nothing wrong with your hearing, then don't pay any attention to it. Don't deny it. You know that it's there, but just don't let it destroy you. And it probably will be helpful for you to get a teacher. So find a yogi or a guru or somebody who can guide you in meditation and help you take a look at that. I feel for you. Because if you tapped into something and you've never had any experience with that before, I mean, I didn't, but I had enough crazy supernatural experiences not to let it throw me off. And I still don't let it throw me off. But there's a good chance also you may be called to be a shaman, and so you're going to have to accept that part of you, that you're connected to the spirit, you're connected to supernatural, and the more you fight it, the more miserable it's going to make you. So short answer is go get some help. Don't sit alone and try and figure it out alone, because you obviously don't have the tools to figure it out by yourself. Find yourself a teacher and start doing some energy work and some meditation and work it out. This is a very typical shaman scenario. The spirit world calls the shaman, and the shaman struggles. And it feels like it's killing them, and they feel like they're going crazy, and they have to make the decision. Do I want to become a shaman and be connected to the spirit? And if you do, then you better have a good teacher that will help you stay sane, because otherwise you could really get lost in your own delusions. And anyway, I don't know you well enough to know, but those are some of my thoughts. What else? Ahuara is yelling at me in all caps, and it's not a question. And let's see, I already got rid of that. I don't see any other questions. Any other questions? Oh, wait. I thought I blocked that. Okay, so there's the other porn spam been blocked. Is that everybody? I don't see anything else. All right. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. Questions are over with. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get on with my life. I don't know. I don't know what all of it means. I don't know if it's literal. I don't know if it's specific or general. I know that I had that dream that was the message of that dream was very clear. In fact, I've had dreams earlier. I had another dream probably a year or so ago where before I'd interacted with extraterrestrials, I had this same kind of dream that something was coming to planet Earth, something huge that was going to be to overwhelm planet Earth in a very powerful but intense way. And then, of course, I just had this recent dream where, something in the sky that is going to make people think that the second coming of Jesus is here, and it will end up shifting people to the next level. And whether or not that's literal, I don't know. I'm not going to worry about it anymore. What I have done is I've listened to when they said that if you want this shift to come, you have to decide. So I said, okay, I'm going to decide. I decide it's coming. And I went, and instead of just that, I went and did a shamanic journey with you guys. And I went to all of the responsible parties in the universe and I said, I'm ready. And you came with me. I said, we're ready. We're ready to do this. And we humbly ask that you start the process when it's appropriate. We want the shift. We say yes to this. And now it's out of my hands. I'm not going to spend any time worrying about what do I have to do to make this happen. Is it going to happen? I've already decided that if it's coming, I want it. And everybody knows that I want it. And I'm going to now live my life. Here's the important part. I'm going to do my best to live my life as though it's already happening. As though I'm in 5D and I'm going to take responsibility for manifesting what I want and doing what I can to face my fears, my self-sabotage, my shame, and to treat people the way I want to be treated, and continue to do whatever work the universe provides for me to evolve and make myself better and more happier. That's what I'm going to do. When and if it comes, it's outside of my control. Alhuara is still yelling at me in all caps. If you have a question, so let me explain. I didn't say, forgive me, it's easy to misunderstand. I didn't say write your question in all caps. I said write the word question, just the word, Question, in all caps. Then just write your question. I just want to see the word question. That's the only thing I want popping up in my mind. You say, I'm sorry, I wanted to know if the sun is blocked in a way that she is regarded male, or is it male and female? So the short answer is that the sun, the center of the sun is female. Now, why did you retract the question? I was reading your question. Why did you, anyway. It's a good question. So a lot of shamanic cultures see the sun as female and the moon as male. And what's interesting is in modern times, even in modern Vedic understanding, we see it the opposite. We see the sun as male. Well, actually, the Vedics also see the sun as female. But most people refer to the sun as male or masculine and the moon as feminine or female. But here's how it works. The center of the sun, and the word sun itself, what the Buddhists have a practice called shunyata, which means emptiness. Shunyata is the same word that the Germanic tribes used for the sun. Sunna. Sunna. It means the emptiness of the self. Su is self, and na is negation or emptiness. Sunna means the emptiness of the self. The sun is the self, it's the soul. So the center of the sun is where all of the nuclear fusion happens. The gravity is so intense that the helium molecules go through nuclear fusion, where they fuse together and then they explode inside the sun. They bounce around inside the sun for, I don't know, weeks or something like that, and then they finally make it out, and the rays that come out of the sun are masculine. So the heat and the radiation that comes out of the sun is masculine, but the center of the sun is feminine. So whether you call the sun feminine or masculine, you're right. If you're calling it masculine, you're talking about the heat. If you call it feminine, you're talking about the center. And by the way, the heat of the sun is hotter farther out than on the surface. The surface is really hot. But the hottest part of the sun is actually away from the sun. The further you get away from the surface of the sun, it gets hotter. So the masculine, expansive energy is the Ra part. The Ra is the masculine. The Su is feminine. And in Vedic you have it, Surya. You have feminine and masculine in the same word. So the Germanics called the sun a goddess because her name was Sunna. So they were focused on the center of the sun, the feminine part of the sun. And the moon is masculine, but the rays of the moon are feminine. So you have the opposite. The center of the sun is feminine, but the rays are masculine. And the moon itself is masculine, but the reflective rays that come off of it are feminine. Is that interesting? I find it interesting. Max Out said, I normally don't read this, but I like it. Said, I had a cool dream yesterday where colorful spheres of light appeared all over the sky. I would love to see that. I answered that question. Casey Jones, honest feeling. I felt a vibration at the base of my skull while doing the HUUL recitation with you yesterday. Awesome. Okay, very good. Well, if you want to do this meditation again, it'll be here. It's still recorded. You can go back and do it whenever you want. I'm not going to do it again because that kicked the crap out of me. I mean, that's going to take me a week to recover from what I did yesterday. And like I said, I've made my position very clear to the universe. I've made my request. It's out of my hands now. I'm just going to go on living my life. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get ready to go back to Australia now that New Zealand has gotten rid of their mandates as well. Now I can do my thing where I can bounce back and forth between Australia and New Zealand. So I'm going to start getting ready for that. It might take me a few months. I got to start making some more money so I can afford the enormously expensive plane trip. And so I'll give that a few months. And just going to get back to enjoying my life and surfing and just doing what I've always done, and whatever happens is whatever happens. And I recommend the same. I'm going to, after I cut off this live stream, I'm going to go back and put on the HUUL mantra and have that run 24/7 for the rest of this month because I said I would. And if at any point anybody wants to connect to that, by the way, the HUUL mantra, I was told, is the mantra to create 5D. So if you want to create 5D, if you want to shift to 5D on your own, you don't want to wait around, chant the HUUL mantra. It is, I was told, the exact thing to do to shift to 5D. So there you go. I'm going to have that live streaming for the rest of the month. So you can enjoy it if you want. Let's see. Jasimar Carr, question again. I keep telling you, write the word question in all caps. I don't know why people, I don't know why people can't follow directions. I don't understand it. And I'm doing it for your benefit. Yeah, I don't understand. Question, when we shift, will we get teleported from 3D to 5D? I don't know. That's a great question. Like, for example, if shift happens when I am talking to someone, so will I get teleported suddenly? I have no idea. That is a very good question, and I don't know. Timothy Zoll, honest feeling, I've been overdoing the meditations. I need to take it in smaller doses. Me too. Yeah, I fried some circuits yesterday, and and my higher dimensional guides, they talk to me all the time if I let them. They're jolting me with the energy all the time if I let them, and I had to say, listen, guys, enough. I need a break. I just need to be human for a while. So I'll let you know when I'm ready. But enough already. And sometimes you got to do that because they don't know. They don't know. They don't know what it's like to be a human. They don't remember. And you have to tell them, hey, listen, I need some human time here. Unless you're going to jolt me up there, unless you're going to make me disappear, and otherwise, because otherwise you go nuts, you go bonkers. Or if you live alone in a hut somewhere at the top of a mountain, go right ahead. But, if you got to pay bills and, do normal stuff, then at some point you just need to be a person again. So maybe when we get to, if we do get to 5D, it'll be a different scenario. I tried living there. I tried living at that state for a while, and it was intense. But it's very challenging to do by yourself in 3D. It's just, you go bonkers otherwise. Anyway, I could be wrong. It could be my resistance talking, but that's how it feels. Vincent.thunderwizard.com question, are you going to do seminars in Florida or Aqua? I don't know, what is Aqua? You mean Australia? Am I going to do live seminars? Well, as I said, that is my plan. If you're asking, do I have any mapped out at the moment? No, I don't have any plans at the moment to map anything out. But that is I'm meditating on manifesting that, and when I'm ready, I will. But I don't have any timeline for you. I know it sounds like you're anxious and you'd like to be a part of that, but so I don't have anything at the moment. So don't schedule anything yet. I'll let you know when that changes. All right. That's it for me, guys. I'm all done for today. Thank you so much for showing up, and we'll see what happens. Like I said, I'm going to try and become human for a while, but I've said that before. And I end up going back to spiritual town. So, if I end up getting metaphysical on you again, that's just the way that I am. Wait, let me get rid of the spam bot here. Doink. All right, just killed the spam bot. And let's see, nothing else. That's it. I wish you guys all the best. I love you. If I've done or said anything that was challenging, hurtful, offensive, dismissive in any way, know that my intentions are to be as helpful as possible, and this is my way. I speak the honest truth. I give you the bitter pill, whether you like it or not, because I would want somebody to do the same for me, because that's been helpful to me in the past. And I love you so much, I'm willing to tell you the truth even if you don't want to hear it. So, but I love everybody, and I wish you all nothing but awareness and happiness and evolution. And if there's anything I can do in my work to give that to you, I will. If you want to support the channel, of course, we've got the thunderwizard.com. Go and subscribe there. We've got courses.thunderwizard.com, and we've got the maoshan.thunderwizard.com. Those are all ways that you can support the channel and empower yourself in the process. All right, that's it. See you next time. Whoops, what happened there?